All right, folks, I'm Andrew Essig.
Shawn Crocker.
Welcome back to the Gambit Stratagem podcast.
It is you. You are here.
It is you. Hello, my friends. We have arrived. Shawn and I are going to talk about fitness trackers today.
Yeah, hot topic.
I think is a super idea that I just had this morning that I should have had way earlier was just to hit up the Facebook group. Yeah, like what do you guys maybe do a little vote on topics?
When I saw the post, I was like, why have we not done this before? Like we're sitting here racking our brains every time we record one. Like,
fantastic.
Oh my gosh, like what's going to be fun to talk about?
Yeah, so for example, we've got from Phil Marshall, best practices for staying on track with fitness and nutrition while on summer vacation and or traveling in general. Josh Truesdell put up our topic for today that we've chosen, fitness trackers. Whoop, etc., versus just listening to your body, downfalls of using technology, etc.
I like that he's already went negative, the downfalls of using technology. He didn't ask for the positives.
Yeah. Well, we'll unpack
Josh.
that.
Bold move.
And then from Alex Dunn, we've got, is a hot dog a sandwich? Which we'll leave that kind of floating out in the ether.
I think it's worth bringing up. John Gramick also, as an addendum to hot dog discussion, is cereal soup. You guys think about that one.
I'd
Let us know in the comments.
I'd have to look up the definition of soup, but we'll see if that pops up.
Corey Clark told me that soup is just wet noodles. That really changed my perspective.
Does it have to be noodles, though?
Whatever,
we'll get into it.
Leave that open-ended, much like a hot dog.
Yeah. I see what you did
I'll
there.
be here all week, guys.
Check the schedule and see when Shawn's coaching for more gems. Fitness trackers. I think I kind of made some notes here. I've tried a lot of fitness trackers, so I kind of made some notes, and I think
likewise.
Have you?
Oh yeah.
So I think we'll just kind of walk through our kind of journey with fitness trackers, and we'll talk about some ups and downs with all of them. And showing my age as I often do, like when I first got into CrossFit, there were not a lot of fitness tracker options. I don't think Fitbit was really a thing. I think doing the old like polar chest strap was kind of like the only option. They were expensive. They were hundreds and hundreds.
They're still expensive.
Yeah, they are, but they're about this. I mean, I think you're looking at like $500 or $600 for a decent one with a chest strap. Probably, I'm just kind of spitballing. But I think
we'll get into like the Garmin chest strap.
But I think you were looking at the same amount of money in the early 2000s and or late 90s, which was like, obviously. Inflation and everything is that was a lot more money
for sure
15 years ago than it is now. So my first fitness tracker was a Fitbit.
I think likewise.
What was your experience with Fitbit?
I got it because everyone was crazy about steps, how many steps you were taking.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, I just mostly used it for a watch, but I kind of got into the information and the details it gave me. I don't remember honestly like all of the nooks and crannies on like what feedback it gave me. Honestly, I just didn't wear it that long.
Yeah. So the thing that's, I guess maybe we should start with an overall kind of, before we really dig in, unpack the Fitbit. I have a lot to say about the Fitbit. But before we unpack all that, like why would you wear a fitness tracker? Since you bring that up, like you don't remember what all information it was giving you. I've got a handful of things. One is you're tracking your workouts, like how many calories burned. So maybe you're using it for nutritional purposes. You want to know what kind of macros you should be putting in your mouth based on what you're burning. We can unpack that more in a little bit, but that's one possibility. Sleep tracking is another one. General like heart rate awareness. Maybe you kind of want to know like it's more just like a health longevity thing, heart condition. Do I have irregular heartbeat, high heartbeat, slow heartbeat? All that kind of stuff. And then
general activity throughout the day.
General activity,
doesn't
and
always
then
have to be centered around
steps is probably like originally, since you bring it up, steps is probably like when the first Fitbit came out, like steps was kind of the big thing everybody was tracking because it was, it kind of like uses the motion of your wrist to track and kind of roughly estimate how many steps you're taking.
Yeah, and I think like nutritionally speaking, like non-exercise activity is something that's super important when you're looking to cut weight and kind of factor in like, again, what you're putting into your body. So I think it's kind of cool. Like I still like to look at steps personally, just because it gives me a target to make sure I'm moving adequately throughout the day. Because quite frankly, there's days I'm just lazy as crap. And like I get 10,000 steps a day, whereas like a normal day, I like to be around the 20,000 steps, just to make sure I am moving throughout the day and not just sitting on the couch watching YouTube.
Sure. So, so my first fitness tracker was a Fitbit Blaze, I think. It had a screen, and I think it was a touch screen, and it did like some
square.
Yeah, kind of a square thing. It did like some rudimentary like text message alerts and that kind of stuff. And overall, I liked it. It was not super expensive. It was like 150 bucks, maybe 200 bucks, something like that.
Super
a couple $100. And what I really liked about it was it was like compared to like an Apple Watch, which we'll get back to the Apple Watch, but like compared to that, I think I initially went with the Fitbit because the battery life was so much better. This was it was a color screen, but it was lasting multiple days, like 3, 4, 5 days, instead of the Apple Watch's 24 hours at best. And I wasn't really necessarily looking for like the smartphone features, but it did track my sleep, and it was like it was kind of overall like average heart rate, resting heart rate, and sleep, which honestly, those are, in my opinion, some of the most important factors just for general fitness knowledge.
Agreed.
Like, you can look at your sleep patterns, and it tells you kind of like, are you in deep sleep? Are you light sleep? Were you awake?
Yeah.
What was the quality of your sleep, and how many total hours of actual rest? I haven't used a Fitbit in a long time, but there was no monthly fee. Had a pretty decent app. So overall, like I give them a pretty good rating. The only thing I have heard from some people is I got a couple folks in the master's class that use Fitbits, and they get wildly different caloric expenditures.
Yeah, and maybe this is
workout.
the best time to talk about that. Is I think, by and large, the calorie, whatever your watch or your activity tracker is telling you burned this amount of calories, I think it's just such a random number. Like there's very little like accuracy behind it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's taking into account your weight, your age, all of these things.
Do you think? So we use those body fat scanners. You've got the little cheapo thing that you can hold, and so there's a thing you can hold. There's like a fancy in-body thing that we have here, which is like a $5,000 or $6,000 machine, and then you've got the old calipers where you pinch actual like rolls of fat, essentially, and then you can get in a tank of water and kind of weigh yourself. And the thing I've always said about the handheld thing, which is like a $30 machine that takes a 9-volt battery, it's kind of like, well, how accurate is this? And I've always said it's not super accurate in terms of body fat across the board, but I found it to be generally accurate to the individual in terms of like, am I up in body fat or down in body fat? So when it says, hey, I'm 10% body fat, don't take that as gospel. Like, your 10% body fat is not the same as my 10% body fat on a $30 handheld scanner. But if I'm up 2% body fat this week, I would generally take that to be accurate in terms of I have more body fat this week than I had last week.
Yeah, it's also.
Do you think fitness trackers are kind of the same? Like,
well, and like I think a lot of this comes down to.
If a Fitbit's telling you burn 3,000 calories, and the same Fitbit's telling me I burned 4,000 calories, and did the same workouts.
Yeah,
those aren't the same.
I think, and also a large way, like I should mention that as I'm coaching nutrition clients, I never have them adjust their daily caloric intake based on activity, right? Like, the reality is most of my clients are CrossFitters.
That's an important note, because I've heard people specifically say, I'm looking for my caloric expenditure on this fitness tracker. Which one should I buy?
Right. So, again, like this is...
And right off the bat, we might want to say,
there we go.
Maybe none of them.
Like the reality is most of my clients are doing CrossFit. I think kind of all of this said, regardless of what fitness tracker you're looking into or interested in, any of these things, is wrist-based heart rate measuring is just not going to be accurate with what we do.
It's all they're all flashing a light through your skin.
The wrist flexion, all of this movement happening in the wrist from push-ups and kettlebell swings and pull-ups and whatever else, it's just not accurate in CrossFit or any kind of functional fitness modality.
Yeah.
If you're running, probably a little bit more accurate in my experience.
Yeah, much better for training for like aerobic exercise.
Yeah,
because it's more directly related to breath and heart rate and all that kind of stuff.
So the reality is, if you're trying to track your heart rate or your calories through a CrossFit workout, say we're doing Fran, right? Like, it's going to be so wildly inaccurate because I use Fran explicitly because I did try to do that once with I think it was a Whoop at the time, and my max heart rate was registered as 96 beats per minute.
Yeah.
Like that's wrong.
Yeah.
Like
Can't be right.
I was rolling on the floor in agony.
So, here's a thing I'll say. Just in general across the board, we've got a few more specifics to touch on, but like this, like Shawn said, the technology of it's kind of like shining light into your skin. Unless you're getting one of those ones with the chest strap, you're basically using the same technology. Now there's like I think put really simply, there's a red light and a green light. They're two different things. So like the new Apple Watch has like the ECG functionality, which is the green light, I think.
I haven't looked too much into the light. I know that
I just know the new Apple Watch it was like a big thing. Like, oh, Garmin has had this and Polar's had this. Now the Apple Watch has it.
The technology is getting
something,
better.
but effectively across the board, the device you're wearing is getting the same data. So when you're buying something like a Fitbit or a Whoop or a Garmin, you're basically dealing with software that's doing different things with the same data.
Yes.
In most
cases. I
cases.
think newer generations of the same things, like newer Fitbits versus older Fitbits, newer Garmins versus older Garmins, newer Whoops versus older Whoops, the technology is definitely improving. I think the accuracy is getting better.
Absolutely.
But I just don't think that
so
like reading your heart rate and stuff through your wrist is not going to be the
So with my
best
Garmin,
idea.
for example, I'm using it. Well, we're both wearing Garmins these days. I have to tell it what I'm doing, and it drastically affects my caloric reading for the day. So if I tell it I'm lifting weights, it'll register my heart rate as being low. But I've noticed if I just wear it all day, for a few days, I came in, I did CrossFit, I did weightlifting, I did the whole deal, but never turned a workout on. I just let it run, and it read me out at like 2,000, 2,300 calories, something like that.
And what was it?
But if I do a full training day, like if I time my workouts and everything, I'm always over 3,000.
Interesting.
And I think that's kind of to your point of you're doing something like Fran where you have a lot of so this has it has weightlifting, it has cycling, it has indoor cycling, rowing, weightlifting. So many options, and I was really curious, like, what does it really know, or what is it changing? And there was a huge difference between like doing a CrossFit workout. So if I've got deadlifts, burpees, or something like that, I might be going through more muscle strain, which is the key factor that these watches cannot detect is muscle strain, and that's you're expending calories there, and it's not necessarily elevating your heart rate. So say we get a heavy deadlift workout and strict pull-ups or something like that, which is like you're going to be breathing heavy, you're going to be under a lot of strain, but your heart rate's
bottleneck in it.
Yeah, your heart rate's not super elevated. When I tell my watch that I'm doing strength training or cross training, it registers a much higher caloric load than if I just leave it alone. The Whoop, its whole thing is that there's no display and it automatically detects your workouts. I used a Whoop for about a year or so. I generally
about the same time frame.
I generally liked it. I think what a lot of people get hung up on with the Whoop is that it gives you a strain for the day, which the Garmin is, we've discussed, the Garmin has a body battery now, which is kind of like on a scale of 0 to 100, how much juice is in your battery. And generally, if you're well rested, you wake up in the morning, in theory, you're at 100. If you didn't sleep very well, or you trained super hard the day before,
or you had a drink.
You had a couple drinks, and that affects your sleep, which affects your body battery. Then you might wake up and have a 70 out of 100 body battery.
Yeah, and all this kind of comes in, like that's the new thing with trackers, is they're starting to measure heart rate variability.
Yeah.
Which is the differences in.
But my point is, what I was going to say is, like, real quick, on the Whoop, people get on that strain. Like, oh, I've got a 20 strain today, I've got a 25 strain today, or whatever. Or Whoop only gave me credit for that. That's the kind of common thing I hear all the time. Yeah. And the point I always make to people is, you're going to get that information pretty much from all of these trackers. Yeah. It's just going to come in a different form. Like, Garmin has the body battery, and it's like, it's not as kind of a slick interface. But I switched away from the Whoop because it was a monthly fee. I had to pay
$30 a month.
I don't know what it is now. I think they just send you a fitness tracker, but at the time I had to buy the tracker, and then I had to pay $20 or $30 a month or whatever. And I was like, man, it's not even a watch. I just kind of wanted one thing that did everything. So that's why I ended up switching to Garmin. But sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, a lot of the new trackers measure heart rate variability, which is a little bit more. It's a different metric. It's not quite heart rate. It's, to my understanding, it's a difference of pulses in your heart, like the difference in timing, right? So like the heartbeat is not always every 2 second kind of thing. It might be every 2, then 1, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 1. seconds apart from
And it's
beats.
kind of making a calculation on
so
how efficient your body's running.
Exactly. So, within this number, and this is a very individualized number, you can't really compare. It's like if your resting heart rate is 48, mine's 45, that's a little low. Let's say yours is 58, mine's 55. Like I could
mine's in the 40s.
Mine is too. I just don't want to make people feel bad. But like we could infer that like maybe in this scenario, if mine's a little lower, maybe I'm a little bit more aerobically fit.
Sure.
We can kind of use that. Heart rate variability doesn't have that same kind of comparison, so to speak. But ultimately, kind of the body battery in the Garmin versus the recovery score in Whoop is all based off of that heart rate variability.
Yep.
And that's so much more flexible based on how you slept, how much you trained. If you're
and I assume other factors too, like your just general caloric output.
Yeah,
but what I do notice, and I think this is probably true about all of these fitness trackers, is the sleep quality, and that's kind of where I'm at primarily. Like, so I think in kind of summation of all these. I'll save that for the end. Because we want to talk about the Apple Watch, I think, a little bit too. Have you had an Apple Watch?
I haven't. The one thing I will say, if we can kind of cut back to Whoop for a second.
For sure.
You brought up the strain score. I think that is the one biggest negative outside of like the whole pricing structure and generally Whoop's business model, is that I think people get too obsessive about their strain score. Because like I get, you want to bring back Danny Laren between two racks. Apparently her strain score is 20 plus every single day. And I think like the max strain score you can ever achieve is like 20.9. And hers is like 20.1 to 20.2 every day.
Yeah, I thought it was like 28 or something weird.
I think it's 21. It's like what they say, but
it's like a weird number.
Yeah. Anyways.
Regardless.
So I can't tell you how many people
and I would
I've had
venture,
bring up Danny
no
Laren.
discredit to Danny, but I would venture that she is not actually achieving a 20 strain. Like,
sure. Well,
she's working hard, but it's...
Also, none of these things work that well with tattoos. As someone with a solid black arm, I cannot wear a tracker on my right arm.
That's a good...
And Danny's got a lot of tattoos, and that was my experience wearing
But I'll have my one master's client, a 74-year-old female, who wears a Fitbit, and she'll say she burned 1,000 calories in a workout, and I'm like, no, you
didn't. Good for her.
No, you didn't. Because I'll do Murph. It took me 40-some minutes to do Murph this year, in the high 40s, I think. It was not a particularly fast Murph, and it was like 900 calories. That's like 40 grueling minutes of working out. And I was like, hey, you came in here and no offense, you did great, but you didn't burn 1,000 calories.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people get obsessed about that strain score, and I think it's for a lot of people working against their actual goals. It's like, because if you do, let's say we do a functional strength class or one of our weightlifting classes, your strain that you achieve in that might be a 7 or an 8, which isn't particularly high, but you worked your
I think it comes back to my theory that like you need to find, if you're going to use any of these things, just like a body fat, like a bioelectrical impedance body fat tester, you need to find whatever your specific baseline is, whatever your strain is. Like when you know you've worked really hard today, what is your strain?
Yeah.
Or what is your body battery saying? And then go off of that.
Yeah.
Day to day. Don't try to compare your body battery to somebody else's. And that's, I think, one of the faults with Whoop is there's a whole social aspect to it.
There's gamifying it.
Yeah, and there's a whole, there's a Gambit group on there, and somebody gets ranked for having the most strain, and it's kind of like...
And then everyone gets mad.
The older I get, the more I kind of feel that kind of is kind of toxic energy. It's that whole...
I think it can be very helpful
rise and grind.
I think for most people, they get too obsessive with it.
Yeah.
They can't just kind of break it down to like, this is what's best for me, who gives a crap what this person's got.
And it feeds into that mentality of like, if we can look at the bigger picture of fitness, like I think we can all agree that you need quality movement.
Yep.
You need some high intensity training.
Yep.
You need some low intensity training.
Yep.
You need mobility and flexibility. You need to get out and walk, hike, whatever, have some activity. You need to eat enough food and calories to sustain your body, but not go too far.
Old Glassman quote, one of my favorites.
Yeah, you need to reduce your sugar intake and your processed carbohydrates. So all of these things feed into this total picture of fitness, and it doesn't necessarily mean just hiking this strain through the roof.
Yeah.
And the typical CrossFitter thing is, I got
Work harder.
whatever. I got I maxed out my strain today, and I'm gonna eat a whole tub of Twizzlers tonight. Like,
it's so weird. Twizzlers.
Well, so we had an event here a while ago, and I think there was a tub of Twizzlers left behind. And it was like, who's gonna take these Twizzlers? And I'm like, can I throw these in the trash, please?
The one thing you did omit in that kind of what you need in fitness and longevity discussion is sleep. And to kind of come back full circle, I think that is the biggest benefit any tracker is going to have, is being able to accurately measure your sleep and give you that kind of feedback on like, hey, this is what happened last night. Mm-hmm. The one thing I loved that Whoop did was, as you wake up in the morning, you log like a series of questions, like, did you drink last night?
Yeah.
Did you meditate last night?
Yeah.
Did you indulge in cannabis last night?
I forgot about that. That was kind of cool.
I think that was one of the coolest things. And then,
but I never, like, I noticed that, but I never really it made me think about what I was doing, but I didn't know what Whoop was doing with that information.
So at the end of the month, you get a performance feedback, basically a report card, if you will. And it's like, okay, for every night you log that you consumed alcohol, your sleep was, let's say, 4% decreased. Yeah. So I think that stuff's really cool, and that was my favorite thing about the Whoop.
But my overall point was just, I totally agree about the sleep, but my overall point was just that I think Whoop tends to steer people towards the wrong direction, the wrong side of fitness. Like, let's overwork, let's overtrain, let's try to overcompensate for things, and that's not always...
Which is funny because
for most individual, that's not what a well-rounded picture of fitness is.
Yeah, and the funny thing, I never thought about that. When I first joined Whoop, it was right when they switched over from a one-time fee model to the monthly model. So it was pretty early on. And they didn't have any of those like leaderboards or anything like that. And they kind of touted as like, this is the thing that you wear to ensure that you're training optimally, not over, not under, but that sweet spot. So it's just a funny anecdote to kind of think about and kind of bring.
Yeah, and it's like anything else. It's like getting on social media. Like, social media is fine for some people.
Sure.
Like, I have this discussion about social media. I'm like, I've found a healthy balance, fairly healthy balance with like Instagram, where when I see things in my feed I don't want to see, I just unfollow that person or block it, whatever, because that's most people's problem with social media. It's like, oh, there's so many toxic people on there. And it's kind of like, well, you have control over what's showing up in your feed. So, you can kind of limit, you don't have to accept every follow request and return the favor to every person that follows you. So
Fitbit?
Whatever fitness tracker you're using, like, you're still in charge of what you're doing with the information and how that affects you. So,
Fitbit
I would just say,
was a great place to start.
Yeah.
Whoop, we both thought left some room for improvement, and it was too expensive for what it was. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great for some people, but I think that for the vast majority, I generally wouldn't recommend it for your average fitness goer.
Yeah.
I think for like a games athlete or somebody who's like a hardcore like
runner,
weekend warrior or something, hardcore runner, it might be worth the investment. I love the Garmin. You're on board with the Garmin. I like that I can change the watch faces. Honestly, I would probably be pretty into an Apple Watch.
So I never had the Apple Watch.
I didn't really touch on the Apple Watch. My problem with the Apple Watch almost exclusively was battery life. Sure. It's like, okay, we're going to track your sleep and we're going to track your workouts. When am I supposed to charge this thing? It lasts 24 hours. It's like, I don't get, I guess the thing is, because now they have all these kind of like, they got all the MagSafe stuff and you can get a charger that goes at your desk. So I guess you get to work and you take it off for an hour and charge it every day. But it's like, if you're wearing it at night to track your sleep, you're wearing it during the day to track your activities and see your incoming text messages and all that kind of stuff and your phone calls, and then you're using it to track your workouts, when would you be charging this thing?
Yeah. My
Garmin lasts like 21 days.
Yeah.
I got the solar version, so it doesn't keep it charged, but it keeps it from running dead quickly. And that was kind of one of my primary selling points, and I paid a little bit more up front for it.
I have like probably looking at life on mine right now. It says 12 days.
You're probably looking at $500 or $600 for a Garmin.
Yeah,
I mean, depending on the model you get, you
get
cheaper ones.
We had a conversation yesterday about like just being patient on searching for things to buy.
Yeah.
Like I got my Garmin for a pretty affordable price, like $300. I think new, like they're up in the 7 to 8, maybe 900 range if you're getting brand new from a store.
Yeah,
but
there's interchangeable straps. It's got a pretty nice. I can change the watch face to look like an analog. Like pretty much like even if I go out to like a nice dinner, I pretty much put a leather strap on it and just wear it. And when I go mountain biking, it pulls up a map of the trails. And you go hiking and stuff, GPS tracks, and it's like, I mean,
that's the big thing that
the
I
Apple
love
Watch
about
probably does that as well. But again, if I'm going out of town, I'm traveling, I just charge my watch and take it with me. I don't need to take a charger with me. Like I can go out of town for 10 days and not take a charger.
Not have to worry about it.
It's pretty fantastic.
The one thing that the Apple Watch always kind of the only one thing that prevented me from ever getting the Apple Watch was I don't want all of my phone's notifications on my wrist.
Yeah.
I get irritated enough that I can have
get
text messages pulled
I can
through.
get my texts.
Yeah.
But you can't do anything with them.
Right.
As you know.
I honestly just kind of turn those off because I find it annoying. I
pretty much do as well.
If my phone's away, I don't want to constantly be bombarded.
I like to just see them and see what's going on.
Yeah. Just make sure nothing like.
But the other thing is like it's the kind of like an e-ink display kind of thing, so it's on all the time.
Yeah.
It does have a light, and that's again with the Apple Watch. I think their displays are on all the time, but you're looking at a LCD or LED screen that draws more power, and I don't know. They might be up to like 2 days battery life now, but you're still a far cry away
21
from
days.
20 plus days. And if you put this thing in battery saver mode and you turn off all the heart rate tracking and stuff, it'll go like a month. It goes over a month, like 45 days or something insane.
And I think like ultimately when you look at the Garmin, especially the Garmin 6 and the newer 7 and maybe the Epics as well, you have heart rate variability tracking just like the Whoop. You have decent and kind of good technology within your heart rate tracking. You have a watch face. You have all of the, not all of the things, but you have a lot of the things from the Apple Watch. Like you can't answer a phone call or talk on it like Inspector Gadget, but you can see a text message.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of the best of both worlds. You don't have a monthly fee, which is my favorite part about it. It's like I bought it and I have all of this
It doesn't have quite the robust kind of feature set as like a Whoop, but it's
but
not
also
as like user friendly. But like I said, you're still getting a lot of the same information. You just have to kind of look for it and kind of know what you're looking for and realize that it's not like you don't pull up the Garmin app and it's got a huge circle in the middle that tells you your strain and all your. That was one nice thing about the Whoop is like you kind of. But the other thing about the Whoop was because it didn't have a display, I never opened the app. I found like sometimes I'd go 4 or 5 days without ever opening the app. And with the Garmin, I've got all that on the. I can flick through it right in the menu on the watch.
Like I can look I press one button, I know I have a 58 body battery right now.
So obviously Shawn and I are both Garmin guys, but I think the real kind of question when Josh posed the question was like kind of generally the ups and downs of fitness trackers, and is it really worth getting one? And I think the answer is not for everybody. It's
I want to. It's
definitely not something you need.
I can answer the question 2 ways. I think first answer is it can be super helpful if you're a competitor and you're wanting to get this feedback on like, okay, what did my workout entail?
Yeah.
I think with that said, if you're going to be wearing a fitness tracker, you're gonna also want to invest in a chest strap because it's just gonna give you better information.
Yeah.
Right? I think more importantly,
if you really want to dissect all your like workout data, your heart rate data and everything, a chest strap is going to be the best
for sure
source of information for that.
I think most importantly for the average gym goer, for someone that's just wanting to be healthy, look good, feel good, perform good, listen to your body. You know how you feel more than a piece of technology on your wrist is going to. If you feel like crap that day, and this is one of the experiences that made me get rid of my Whoop was I woke up one day, felt like absolute trash. And I looked at my recovery score and I was like 98.
Ready to go.
I was like, maybe like all of these physiological signs are right there.
So that's what I was gonna say in closing is like, there were some stories when GPS first came out, like car GPS, that like people had driven into lakes and stuff because they're like, well, my GPS told me to go straight. It's like, all right, here's the deal with fitness trackers.
That's
like,
such a good
follow
analogy.
your GPS, but like, don't listen to what your GPS says over and above what you can see out of your windshield of your car. Like, don't listen to what your watch is saying above and beyond what you actually feel in your body. Like, stay in tune.
Show up, work hard. If you feel like trash, take it easier or take a day off or do some active recovery.
Any fitness tracker is not going to make or break your fitness results.
No.
Now, if you're looking for something to track how far your run was, remember where you parked your car when you're out mountain biking or hiking.
Garmin makes a great watch.
Gauge your
the Phoenix Pro.
Gauge your quality of your sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost probably any one of these at this point.
Yep.
I would almost probably wager Fitbit's got something that's got a GPS tracker in it.
Oh, yeah.
I know you can get an Apple Watch or probably the equivalent Android like Samsung Watch with maps and everything. So
we didn't talk about the poor Android watches.
Nobody uses those.
Fair. Sorry,
No, I mean they're
Android.
great, but it's like they're kind of the same. Like if
Yeah.
you Apple Watch and the Samsung, like Samsung watches look super cool, but I think you're going to deal with the same kind of battery life stuff. So nothing major there. So that's our take on fitness trackers.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think in the comments, and as always, tune in again next time, and keep an eye on the Gambit members group if you're a member there, and our general social media where we will try to reach out in the future and ask you for topics.
Yeah.
Possibly vote on them. Maybe we'll pop up some of the recurring topics, especially the hot dog one, and have people vote on that.
Guys, in summation,
For the next
hot
podcast.
dogs, sandwich or no?
All right, that's your Gambit Stratagem podcast. I'm Andrew Essig.
Shawn Crocker.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.